Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm your host, Paige Browning, with today's top stories. It's Wednesday, June 17th. This Friday, Seattle hosts its second World Cup match. It's also Juneteenth, when America commemorates the emancipation of enslaved Black people. Local elected leaders say all the soccer festivities won't overshadow Juneteenth, but instead highlight the important day.
Athletes have the power and responsibility to use your platforms to make a difference, to challenge racism in sports and in our country.
That's Seattle City Attorney Erica Evans, the first Black person elected to that position. She said Juneteenth is personal for her. Evans's grandfather, Lee Evans, was a two-time Olympic gold medalist who protested for racial justice in the 1968 Games.
When my grandfather and his teammates stepped onto a world stage carrying USA on their backs, they did not receive the full promise of what America was supposed to represent.
The Juneteenth-themed match will feature commemorative scarves, pins, and posters designed by two local Black artists. Kickoff is at noon on Friday. Air travel is up for every U.S. city hosting the World Cup, except for one, Seattle. Bloomberg News reports that online flight bookings for Seattle are actually down by 21% from the same period last year. There is some good news for locals. Seattle has one of the least expensive resale markets for tickets. The Washington Hospitality Association told Bloomberg hotel reservations in Seattle also did tick up over the weekend, with visitors driving in. The games are far from a bust, though. Sound Transit Light Rail had nearly the most riders it's ever had on Monday for Seattle's first World Cup game day. Ridership was the third highest on record for Sound Transit. The agency had 210,000 boardings across the day. All three busiest days have happened this year, including the Seahawks Super Bowl parade day and the opening of the Cross Lake Connection. FEMA has approved Governor Bob Ferguson's request for disaster assistance for the wildfire burning in the Spokane Valley area. The upriver fires started up yesterday afternoon, and right now there's at least one missing person. 15 homes are lost or damaged, according to the local sheriff's office, and about 12,000 homes are under evacuation orders still today. Spokane County District 9 Fire Chief Matthew Vinci is asking people whose homes are threatened to be patient as a combination of local and state crews work to further contain the blaze.
Please don't come back. That makes it very challenging for our crews. We have law enforcement, keeping the roads shut down, and folks definitely want to see their home. I'd want to see my home too, but stay out of the area and let us do our work.
Crews estimate that the upriver fire is about 10% contained and say it's holding steady around 220 acres. In environment news, the Trump administration has ordered a coal-burning power plant in Centralia to stay open, now for a third time. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright issued the first 90-day emergency order in December. It forced the TransAlta coal plant to stay open past its long-planned retirement at the end of last year. The federal orders claim there's an emergency need for more electricity. But grid data shows the Centralia plant has produced no power since December. Plant owner TransAlta has filed a request to charge ratepayers $20 million to cover the cost of keeping the plant ready to run. A bear encounter update. The hiking trails on Mount Si near North Bend remain closed while wildlife officials try to find a bear they say attacked a teenage boy on Tuesday. King County search and rescue teams say the boy was with a group when a mother black bear with her cubs in tow charged them and clawed the victim's legs. Other hikers in the area came to help before rescue teams were able to take the teenage boy to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Bad encounters with bears are still rare in Washington. News around Seattle today. 6 people accused of exploiting children along Aurora Avenue North are now facing felony charges. Seattle police made arrests over the weekend and connected 3 minors to Child Protective Services. It's part of the city's response to neighbors' concerns about ongoing prostitution activity and gun violence. On the economy front, Seattle's losing jobs to Bellevue. That's according to a new report from the Downtown Seattle Association. Monica Nicholsberg has more.
The Downtown Association estimates that in the past 3 years, Seattle's workforce declined by about 1%, while Bellevue's increased more than 12%.
Seattle's lost its economic mojo.
That's their president, John Scholes.
It's been 5 years since the city imposed a significant set of new business taxes, and in that time, we've lost about 30,000 jobs in downtown Seattle. In Bellevue, a city dealing with similar issues coming out of the pandemic, they've grown jobs.
The report blames Seattle's Jumpstart tax. It passed in 2020 to fund affordable housing by taxing the salaries of high earners at Seattle's largest companies. King County Council member Teresa Mosqueda helped architect Jumpstart.
Let's get away from this lazy politics of pitting one city against another and recognize that we in this region are all better when we invest in permanent supportive housing to keep people off the street.
Monica Nicholsberg, KUOW News.
Seattle's social housing can now have commercial spaces in the same building. The Seattle City Council has approved a measure that gives the city's social housing developer that ability to develop retail or restaurant space on the lot. The social housing program lets people across the income spectrum rent affordable units that are subsidized by city taxes. Mayor Katie Wilson still needs to sign off on the changes. Seattle's first social housing units just opened in Belltown. And brace for a new, higher electricity bill. Seattle City Lights proposing a 9.5% increase in each of the next 2 years. It's one of the largest rate hikes in recent memory. The utility says it can no longer put off decades of deferred maintenance. An independent panel has signed off on the proposal, which now goes to the City Council. Now, our feature story. As soon as tomorrow, the U.S. Supreme Court could release their decision around so-called grace periods for mail-in ballots. Washington and 13 other states allow mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day to be counted afterwards. An additional 15 states offer a grace period under certain circumstances. If the Supreme Court rules grace periods are unconstitutional, it could have a significant impact on voting in Washington state. To learn more, Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs spoke with KUOW's Kim Malcolm.
Thanks for the time, Secretary Hobbs.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
So the general election in 2024 in Washington state had about 120,000 late ballots that were postmarked on Election Day, and that makes up roughly 3% of voters in the state. So what plans are being put in place if the Supreme Court rules against these grace periods?
We anticipated that this might happen, and also we had USPS rulemaking that happened around this time last year, in which the postmark was changed from the moment that your carrier got it to being ran through the central processing facility. So we decided, when we do our public information campaign where we let the public know about elections, stressing more on, hey, you need to get your ballot in early. I would say to people out there, if you're a week out, then you just need to take it to the drop box. If you're more than a week out, you could probably mail it and be okay. But I wouldn't take the risk if you're a week out. I just take it to a drop box.
I'm just on a related matter when it comes to the U.S. Postal Service. President Trump has ordered the USPS to restrict mail-in ballots for states that do not hand over their voter rolls to the federal government. And Washington state is part of a lawsuit to block that order. What would the fallout look like if the Postal Service is allowed to go ahead and implement that?
So it'd be pretty devastating. Now, the rulemaking that the U.S. Postal Service is doing based upon that executive order that you're talking about says that the states need to give them a list. And so our state will give them the list of people we were going to mail ballots to anyway. But the problem with that is well, how are they going to secure it? Also, we update our list almost by minute basis. So are they going to do the same thing? And how are they going to process this? Are they going to collect them all at the central processing facility and then scan them all in? The other thing that people don't realize is that we are also ordered to based on these USPS rulemaking, is that we have to change the outgoing ballot. So that's the ballot that you send to the county to be counted. We have to have a barcode on it now, which we didn't have to have before. And so that's going to take time. That's going to take money. Look, we're going to sue on this. We're already doing it on the executive order, but we're also preparing to sue the U.S. Postal Service if they enact a rule that restricts or disrupts the way we do elections here in the state of Washington.
So, Mr. Secretary, no matter what the decision is, how broad, how narrow, it comes down from the Supreme Court on mail-in ballots after Election Day. Accusations of voter fraud continue to grow here in Washington state, sometimes amplified by the state Republican Party. All evidence so far is showing that our elections are above board. What steps are you taking to convince people that they can trust our process?
What we are trying to do is talk about the process of elections. This is why you have a part of the population who thinks that the elections are fraudulent, because quite frankly, myself and other elections officials have done a very poor job of talking about the elections process. For example, in our state, we check every signature. In our state, there are audits before and after the election. Our databases talk to each other. They talk to other states that were part of ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, which means that we know when people vote twice in the same election, when somebody moves to another state and registers there. We know when people pass away. We get all that information, and we have not told people that. And I'll tell you, Kim, before I was Secretary of State, I didn't even know that. And that should not be secret or a mystery. And so we are changing that by letting people know what's going on. And for the Republicans, not every Republican believes that. I've talked to a lot of Republican legislators and they believe our elections are good. But unfortunately, there is a segment that does not believe it. And we just got to get the word to them that our elections are secure by talking about the process.
Washington's Secretary of State Steve Hobbs talking with KUOW's Kim Malcolm. Next time on Seattle Now, we're entering peak hiking season in Washington. If you're hoping to hit the trails, you may have to try some new routes due to ongoing recovery from winter storm damage. Hear more Thursday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst. I'm Paige Browning. Today's interview was produced by Shane Mailing. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Have a great night. See ya.